Hello everyone, welcome back to Neffy Cat. We're so glad that you can join us today. This is one of his favorite little owls. He was rabbit footseeing this earlier, and I've been working on seeing if I can get him to again. Oh yes. But I wanted to talk today about something that very much confused me when I was first learning about stocks. And it is a concept that is called shorting a stock. Shorting a stock, when I first heard that, I was like, what in the world is that? Yes, I wondered, what in the world is shorting a stock? So it's actually the opposite of buying one, which is going to sound weird to some of you. But when you're, first of all, when a stock is being shorted, somebody is betting, they're putting their money on the idea that the price of the stock is going to fall and go down instead of up. And so they call it selling the short. So you are technically, sounds very weird, but you're selling the stock first, and then the ideal is that as it goes down, you rebuy it back. That's called covering. That's called covering the short. And so somebody might buy a stock of, say, Tesla, and let's say they buy it at 1,000, and they're convinced it's going to fall. So instead of buying it, I meant to say, they short it. So they are saying, hey, this is going to go down. And then a month later, let's say that it fell down all the way to 800. And so they buy that, they cover their short, and they buy it back that month later at 800, and they keep the $200 difference. Now, it's a really interesting concept. So, yeah, you buy at a high price, and you ideally sell at a low price. Well, what happens when that price continues to go up? The opposite. The person can get into trouble. They can lose money. So with this in mind, there is something that's called short interest. And some of you may have heard of this recently when it has come to the Wall Street Bets movement and the AMC stock, the GME stock. So short interest is the percentage of shares, or the number of shares that have been sold short, but not covered yet, not bought back yet. And it's a pretty big deal. So when there are several things that signals. Your high short interest, if you're seeing that, which by the way, you can see on most brokerages, they're going to have a section when you're looking at the stock information overall. They have things like the volume listed, they'll have the float, they have the short interest. Not all brokers report short interest, but the better ones do. But it's very important to know it though, because if you're seeing a high short interest, it means that people really do believe, or institutions also believe, that the price of the stock will continue to fall. And so there's mixed feelings about whether or not that's a good time to buy in or not. And a high short interest can mean that that's going to tank. That would happen at a type of time, let's say, when perhaps a company was at risk for being bankrupt, which is, in my opinion, not the time to buy or sell into those particular stocks. But it can mean that, that's going to fall even further. Perhaps you're having a mid-cap stock that's going to, they think is going to just become a meager penny stock, which is a low market cap stock, usually under $10 and especially under $5. Those are penny stocks. Shorts, if you're having a high short interest, somebody is noticing a hummingbird. So it can indicate that the stock price might fall more, or it can also indicate that a short squeeze is about to happen. This again, some of you may have heard of this when it came to the Wall Street Bets, recent things that had happened, and what they call retail traders. So first of all, you can think of this as buying, and that is shorting a stock. But they believed that the stock had the short interest was way too high, and to the point that some of it was an illegal activity. And I won't go into that in this video. That is for its own video, learning about naked short selling and such. That's its own complexity. But in this case, when there really is a short squeeze, there's a couple of things that happen, and when a short squeeze happens, the price accelerates super, super, super fast, sometimes within minutes. So let's say if you have a stock that's 10 and it gets short squeezed, it may go up to $20, $40 within the space of a few minutes. And sometimes that'll be several days as well. Oftentimes you'll have one rush that takes, within like an hour or two, or very often a few minutes. And another thing to note about that is it can sell off as quickly as it goes up. So going back into where, because I have a little one distracting me here, and hopefully distracting you too in a good way with his cuteness. So what happens though is that a lot of people in the stock market, unfortunately, in my opinion, buy on margin. They go into debt in order to buy stocks. It is dangerous in a case of when somebody's shorting. It can be dangerous overall anyway, but it is dangerous when somebody does shorting because they can run out of money. Basically, if it rises, let's say that stock rises, and let's say we had a $10 stock and it rises to 100, and let's say they shorted it and had bought 9 more shares, had bought 9 shares on short, and then they didn't have that much money in their account, and they had bought that on margin. Well, the institution may force a sell, or the brokerage may force a sell in order to pay for that difference. So sometimes that happens, and that is called a short squeeze. Sometimes people or institutions will also sell off before it gets that bad. So let's say that they know they don't have $90 available, and they sell it, or they buy back the shares at $50 of a loss, which would be a $50 gain in price. And, then that keeps them from having a margin call, which means that they'll either have to sell off a different security, put more money in, or the brokerage will for them. So that is one of the reasons and one of the big dangers in people that are shorting stocks, especially on margin. And it can lead to a short squeeze. Well, what adds to a short squeeze is that people start noticing, that stock is starting to rise. And all the momentum traders and day traders will go into that thing and buy into it. And this price will go it'll go very, very, very high, very fast, and make it even more difficult, because then more institutions and more people that had shorted it and that had bought margin, used margin in order to do so, then their limits are met, and then they have to also do the same thing that drives the price of that stock up. So that is one of the two things that can happen when you see a high short interest on a stock. You may have a lot of people that are losing a lot of money at that point, while others are gaining it that buy into it. And once again, with these types of things, when this happens, it tends to sell off. Now, occasionally, like with GameStop, it didn't go down as far as it had, when the short squeeze in that case had happened, but it was a low number. And then it had a short squeeze and rose by a couple $100 over the course of a couple of days. Well, people did sell off though, but many times with short squeezes it completely crashes. And it goes right back down to where it was or near where it was. Sometimes you'll have, like in the case of GameStop and also of AMC, you'll have hodlers. Hodling is holding your stocks. And they'll hold on to that for dear life and say, no, you short squeezers aren't going to get any more money. You're going to pay your money out for shorting a company and treating a company like that, thinking it's going to go down instead of being supportive of it. And that can be a big deal in the market. But I wanted to share those concepts with you today because they were two things that absolutely made no sense to me when I first heard about it. And I hope that my explanations have helped you with your understanding. Don't forget to take those paws and hit that like button and the notification bell so you can get all of Neffy Cat's videos, and subscribe if you like our content and want to see a lot more like this. You can also share this video. Thank you all so much for having today with us and watching this video. I look forward to seeing you, and he does too, in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.